Audrey Fisher, costume designer for Love and Death. The show is set in the late 70s, a time period you're kind of familiar with, because I was looking on your IMDb and you worked on That 70s Show. Completely different show. Love and Death, grounded in reality and very specific to this church-going enclave in Texas. So how did you approach tackling this, 180 different type of 70s show here?
Wow. Okay. Great question. Yeah, you're right. I've definitely done sort of more of a, like that 70s show is a little
Like
more,
kitschy and like
yes,
playing up
exactly.
the comedy. Yeah.
Exactly. Kitschy comedy. And what was important for us on this production was that it was absolutely like you needed to feel like it was real because we were recreating this, this real story, this true crime story, which is so tragic. So I felt a lot of responsibility to faithfully kind of reproduce their reality as much as possible. So yeah, I was really focused on the world of a Methodist enclave, like you said, in this time period in these little towns. So all the towns together were called Collin County. So I really tried to find as much research as I could that was based in small Texas towns in that part of Texas. And it was like looking for sort of school photos, portraits of teachers, groups of teachers. There were Methodist directories that were really useful from that area. That was sort of like an early Facebook for church communities where you could, you would put on your Sunday best, go have your portrait taken, and that would be put into a little directory so you could like see all the different families. That really helped me sort of recreate that very specific Sunday best look in that kind of town. Also, my experience when designing costumes, especially when you're working in a smaller town environment, is that the fashion is a little bit behind because, it's not like if you're in New York, it's like the fashion is sort of like coming in quickly,
Yeah,
right? It's
Fashion
like
Week. Yeah.
exactly. Studio 54 and everyone's, there's just like a lot of wealthy people who are wearing the latest fashions and shopping at Bergdorf and all that kind of stuff. Even in Dallas, there would sort of be a more fashion forward look. But I feel like in this smaller environment, everything's a little behind. And that also allowed sort of Candy and Sherry to be sort of the most interesting and kind of cute fashion wise. Like they maybe take trips to Dallas together and buy some cute outfits. So I was able to sort of show the fact that Candy's sort of like the head cheerleader, the belle of the ball, like everybody kind of is electrified when she's around. She has all these cute little outfits. She has so many outfits.
There's a lot. She is I guess the most fashion forward of everyone there. And like there is that shot of her in one of the early episodes when she's trying on that blue dress.
Yeah.
That story. I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's like that's like she's a little bit more progressive in sartorially.
Yeah, exactly. And she wants to look good. And she wants to sort of, be the most adorable and look the best. I think that's important to her. And she's just so kind of bubbly and confident. It just felt like a perfect fit, to sort of put her into these outfits that were a little bit more put together. They sort of had a cleaner line. They were a little more sophisticated, but still she's just that cute mom a lot of the time in like a fitted tee and jeans running around town in flip-flops. And then she murders someone.
She does go through quite a style evolution or devolution, you can say,
Yeah,
really
right.
in court because of Dawn.
Yeah.
But I do love, I guess like you could go in order, like when she and Alan start the affair, I love her lingerie outfit that like, is it a nightgown? Is that or is that just 70s lingerie?
It's like I would call that like a peignoir set.
Okay.
Very fancy sounding, but it's like a matching set. And I feel like that first look, that first time that she's welcoming Alan into their sleazy hotel room, I feel like she really is so committed to this like romance novel kind of moment. And I feel like she, put on her kind of most special and also most demure kind of set, because it really is sort of like a peekaboo. And it's that kind of beautiful, warm pink with that yummy cocoa brown lace. It's so flattering. And you can kind of see skin, but kind of can't. It's like her real, I feel like it's also feels a little bit like late 60s. It's sort of like a throwback, frilly sort of princess look, like a peekaboo sort of thing. I feel like he's just blown away, when we opens the door and she's in that. And then I think it's so funny that they sit down and eat.
Yes.
I
I
love
love that
that.
they always eat first.
I know. And that she's always sort of so lovingly setting out this incredible like picnic in the sleazy hotel. I think it's such a great story point that's a huge part of their connection, is this kind of caretaking and sort of like good mom and kind of good girlfriend kind of vibe, good affair. I don't know. It's so weird, like putting out the food. Incredible. And they talk about the food. I think it's really funny.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, all the nightgowns, all of the peignoir sets, all the lingerie was like a huge story arc that Lizzie and I very carefully sort of plugged into all the different days, because there's a lot of quick hits of them, in the two different motels. And we really wanted to show how she gets more comfortable and more kind of sexually confident, and they become closer and their friendship develops, and then it sort of becomes more of a friendship. So we really, we worked on that arc with racks and racks and racks of vintage.
Where did you source them?
Oh gosh, Joyce, everywhere. I mean, where did I not source them? I mean, I was looking in every nook and cranny, from Western costume to like, the thrift store around the corner from where I live. I was hunting high and low because I knew we would have so many important scenes of her in this kind of, very provocative and revealing dress, these negligees. So I just needed to have a huge amount of choice, because when you're dealing, especially everything that she wore in all those scenes is vintage. And vintage is tricky, it might be stained. It might be, turning into dust. The elastic might be blown out. The lace might have holes in it. The good news about 70s stuff is that it's so much nylon that a lot of things are actually really well preserved, especially menswear, like those pants will never die. They will survive the apocalypse. Those like, Sansabelle polyester plaid pants. But yeah, it looked everywhere. Every vendor I know, I had stuff shipped in. And I mean, my amazing costume supervisor, who's like my kind of cohort in managing everything that happens, Sarah Walbridge, she just started to tease me. Her favorite joke was like, I literally had like 5 racks full of lingerie, and I put it in sort of rainbow color order. I can't not do that. I get really freaked out if it's not kind of in color order. And she would kind of walk into the fitting room when I was prepping and look at me and say, hey, should we get some more lingerie?
Always,
that's like
yes,
my favorite joke. Yeah. I was like, yes.
Well, one thing I love about the lingerie for Alan is like she dresses completely differently for Pat. It's just like because like that is the less exciting relationship in her life presently. So it's like more rote. It's like we've been married for forever.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to put in the effort to dress up for you.
Right. That was very specific. Lizzie was really clear that she wanted her like Alan romance to be kind of its own special thing. And then at home, it's her more like everyday nightgowns, more covered, her, had a little sleeve, higher neck. Yeah, that was very specific. And I loved that. I loved how specific she was in the stories that we wanted to tell with the clothes. It's amazing to have that collaboration, especially with your leading lady. And she had so many looks that we had to talk all the time about kind of what made sense for each scene. And that was really fun. That made it easier to sort of have such a great line of communication with her.
Yeah, especially because they're not when you're shown the interior of their lives this way, where we don't have, data and like photos or anything. It's like you guys can build it yourself.
Right. Yeah.
The courtroom.
Right. Yeah. As part of the research, we did have that story. It's been around for 40 years, right? So there's a lot of pictures you can find on the internet of the arrest, certain days of the trial, but then there's kind of a gap. So we had to, I was going to say that earlier, the production did a really good job finding us news footage. And I found also a lot of kind of obscure local news footage. And so I took a lot of screenshots from those roles. And then there's like a handful of family photographs you can also find online of Betty's family and of Candy and a little bit of Pat. and a lot of, Alan at the trial. So you can sort of dig deep and find those photos, and those became really important to me because they just helped me map out that second part of the story when it becomes this trial, right? Mm-hmm. Like from the arrest, then, that's in June, and then in June 1980, and then the trial is until the fall.
Right.
So those pictures really, I could really make a very clear sort of map of where we were going, mm-hmm. and then riff off of that and try to, I tried to approximate it as much as possible, but it's not a documentary, so I could like take some license. So I could just work with Lizzie to get the most flattering or the thing that made her feel most like Candy. Mm-hmm. That was really
fun. Well, the day of the murder, talk about dressing her up in the murder outfit, I guess, because it's like that red tee, jeans, and then those flip-flops that are later confiscated as evidence.
Yeah. So yeah, the murder look, I started working on that like almost first thing because I knew that I would have to build from scratch most of the pieces because we had to have so many, right? I think we had 15 to 20 of the blouse and the jeans and the flip-flops, like maybe 12 to 15. Same with Betty, we needed so many because you have the actor, and then you have the stunt people, and then you might have a body double. And in Betty's case, unfortunately, you had the body on the floor. So that's always a big build that I need to think about early if I ever have a big stunt like that. So yeah, it was really in the first fitting with Lizzie trying on sort of shapes to see the silhouette that made sense. We had the information, the sort of description of the outfit, which was like a dark red or burgundy kind of loose top. There wasn't a lot of description, but I looked at pictures that I had of Candy and I saw that she liked this. Actually, it's kind of what I'm wearing now, sort of like a collarless with a little sort of a 3/4 sleeve. So I sort of recreated that in a similar kind of tone, actually kind of the color you're wearing, right? Sort of like not like a dark blood red, but a little more burgundy, like yours.
Yeah, it's like wine. Yeah.
Or low. Yeah. Then I had to shop that fabric. It was very hard to find the right fabric in the right amounts. I needed so many yards, I think 40 yards. That's hard to find. So I swatched. Then we tried washing it to see how it would look when it was wet, Then we made some sample shapes. We also had to try on a lot of jeans. I had vintage jeans. I had sort of new to look 70s. Luckily, that's, very popular, kind of always has been, but it was still I feel like it's now popular again. It goes sort of in waves, but there were enough sort of new to look 70s styles of jeans that I could pull into the fitting. The flip-flops were challenging. We had to, again, have so many of them. So we had to shop at bigger stores that would be able to provide the multiples we needed. But those really cheap flip-flops they don't fit very well because the sort of straps are too loose. We finally found them at Target.
How fitting, since she was going to Target. She's
That's right.
supposed to go to Target that day.
That's right. So anyway, it comes together slowly, and it takes a long time. It takes a lot of fittings. I had to get, and I had to start with getting the illustration approved by our consultant, Robert Udishin, who was actually one of Candy's lawyers, like in real life, which is wild. Anyway, he approved our sort of illustrations and said, yep, that looks about right. And then we were off to the races, had to try it on Lizzie, get the right fit, get the right jeans, get it all perfect, get approved by Leslie Linka Glatter and David E. Kelly, and then make a million of them. And the same thing with Betty. That was even more challenging because
it's covered in blood.
Yes. And you have to have even more of that pale yellow shirt. That was the description. She was wearing a pale yellow t-shirt and red cutoffs. So interesting, when you think of Betty and look at Betty and think of look at the pictures that I have of her. It seems like such a kind of a cute, flirty outfit for her. It really threw me in the beginning. So I had to find something that felt a little more kind of modest. So I put that little trim on the t-shirt, that little ditzy floral to give it a kind of a more homey look. And we found a little sandal that she could wear and do all the action in. And Lily was pregnant at the time, but the character Betty wasn't supposed to be pregnant at the time. So it was all kinds of, You know,
She
Betty's
thought she was pregnant though, that she could be.
That's right. She
Yeah.
thought she could be, and she had recently given birth. So she needed to look a little bit like postpartum body, which is perfect. Anyway, it was it's like just two outfits, you know, and it's like the sort of backstory of
And
each outfit.
they look so simple too. You know, it's like
Oh,
a top and shorts, right? Yeah.
I
Jeans and
know.
flip-flops.
I mean, honestly, that's the hardest. When you have a t-shirt and jeans, that is literally, I think, because it's so simple and the fit has to be so right, whether that's a perfect fit or it looks a little baggy or whatever. It's just like, it's so difficult. When
Mhm.
I do a jean fitting, I literally have like 500 jeans in the room. No
Well,
joke.
during the trial or even before, Dawn tells Candy, it's like, I need you to lose weight and completely change your wardrobe. I will pick out your clothes because we have to present you like this meek, demure
Right.
housewife who would
Mhm.
never be able to pick up an axe. So then she's
Mhm.
way covered up.
That's right.
Or so, and it's like, that's not her. Like that's a performance
Right.
on top of a performance. So it was like a costume on top of a costume.
Exactly.
Yeah. So how did you go about picking those looks?
Well, first of all, that's so fun. Like a real life costume in the story, you know,
Yeah.
becoming a costume on a costume in our show. Yeah, I was so glad that we added or we didn't add it, that scene existed already, you know, because of course it's so pivotal that Dawn sits her down and says, okay, you know, you have to look more meek, you have to look more demure, you have to lose weight, we have to change your hair. Like he really wants to like scale her down and sort of, you know, contain her kind of naturally bubbly nature. Um, and I actually, in that scene, I put her in like a really cute fitted black tee that has like kind of you know, she was really one of her like most fashion forward little tees and her little burgundy jeans. So I love that sort of, I was trying to create that, you know, that sort of juxtaposition. But you know, I had a lot of photos from the trial. And I tried to get screenshots, or I had screenshots from the trial. I tried to take as many from as like all the angles that I could when she's walking in and out of court, because there was no photographs in court. And then we also had some of the court sketches. So just day by day, I just started, you know, I started a very like a rack with each day and just started plugging in all the pieces that could work. And I had like a special assistant designer to help me sort of like find all those pieces. I actually had two assistant designers who were amazing, Bree and Christine, and we just started shopping towards each look. And we knew we would have to build quite a bit. And that's actually what happened, is that we wound up building a lot because again, you know, some of the pieces we found were just blown out, you know, or had a stain right in the middle. Like everything had to be pretty pristine because she had to look so correct.
Mhm.
And we had to custom make, she wears like a cream sweater, couldn't find anything that worked. So we had it knit in Los Angeles by an incredible, you know, artisan. My assistant Bree found the actual duffel coat, that sort of beige coat with the hood with the toggle buttons. She found one online months into searching. She found the real one. So we had like a dead stock with the tag on version of that coat, which was like, you know,
That was
so
actually a pretty cute coat.
so cute,
I was like, I would wear that.
right? And
I
it's
wouldn't
way
wear the blazer
cheaper.
with the shoulder pads that she wears. Like,
That's
but
right. That was like that. Yeah, that was a beautiful. I love that when she actually, yeah, when she's on the stand, we did that very sort of demure little white with the self tie and that beautiful jacket that and the suit actually that that also is a little bit more has an 80s moment. You know, I sort of had to have a whisper of 80s just gently when we got into like early 80, you know, that I just a whisper,
yeah.
just a touch, like a
Mhm.
sparkle.
But it was also so like, oh man, I could never picture Candy wearing this in
Yeah.
episode one, you know?
Right. Well, I'm
Yeah.
so glad. I'm so glad that that reads so distinctly. And I think, of course, that scene where he says, okay, we got to
You got to
tone
change
it
it. Yeah.
down or else you're going to be convicted. Like, I'm so glad that that was such a strong scene because I think you really see it's like the first three episodes and then the first three last,
Or yeah.
right? Yeah. It's sort of like her normal everyday life as a cute little button of a housewife, you know, who kind of is dreaming of something more. And then you've got suddenly like, oh no, trial. And
Mhm.
it's like a different world. Yeah, that was fun to have those two worlds to sort of embrace.
Mhm.
It was a good challenge. It was fun.
Well, lastly, I
Yes.
gotta ask about Pat's shorts when he's
Oh,
mowing the
yeah.
lawn.
Mhm. Yeah.
Where did those come from?
Yeah, fan favorite. I can't tell you, like the minute. So first of all, Patrick is also such a wonderful collaborator. Like we had this, I had these 6-hour fittings with the top 4 in Los Angeles at Western Costume, because that's just better, just get a huge fitting out of the way before they're in Texas with you. And, they have to rehearse and go to wig fittings or whatever, you just do as much as you can before production starts. So I had this 5-hour fitting. I had 4 racks of everything. And we just started going through. And I knew I needed a lot of dad looks, because I feel like Pat's he's kind of like Mr. Rogers. He gets home, he takes
He
off
doesn't
his
think about his clothes. Yeah.
No, right. Candy thinks more about his clothes. He and I came up with that backstory, that she's kind of trying to give him stuff that's a little cuter to wear, like those velour shirts he has. I feel like she bought downtown, Anyway, so I needed a lot of good casual dad looks. And I just felt like, honestly, that outfit is modeled on my dad in the late 70s, who had exactly those shorts. And he would wear those socks pulled up, and he would wear those those lace up sort of suede shoes that were so ugly, and a tank top, or
it's such not a summer look. And
yeah, but I swear,
hot,
right. But it's a dad. I mean, it's just to me,
it's classic,
classic
70s
dad.
Mm-hmm.
And that was also, I have to say, that was always the best compliment. If someone was like, oh my God, that looks like my granddad, or that, oh my God, my dad or my mom, I really felt like, okay, I'm sort of getting a real vibe. And also Patrick loved that outfit. I mean, he saw the humor in it. He saw the how authentic it was with his glasses, when his hair was done, that was all his hair. Amazing. That amazing hair. That was, yeah. And when Leslie saw that photo, she just started laughing, and she's like, oh my God, this is perfect. Mm-hmm. And so it was, honestly, and every time he wore it, I think there was 3 scenes where he wore the shorts, and people went wild on set.
It's the best. He may not have as many changes as Candy, but that might be the top look of the show.
I think so. And it's so, I'm so, to me, it's really hilarious that that's a top look. It makes me so happy.
Yeah. Well, Audrey, it was great speaking with you. Thanks so much for your time, and congratulations on the show.
Thank you, Joyce. Thanks so much. This was great.